Hey folks, it's Swank Ivy with another Letters to an Asexual. This is number 85. I'm going to read you a message that I received from someone on OkCupid a good while back. And just to warn you, there's some discussion of coercion and unwanted sexual attention in this letter. And I'll do my best to discuss how ridiculous it is and whatnot. There's nothing too explicit here. I'm skipping over some of the stuff that I don't want to talk about in the words that he chose. But just so you know, I will be talking about that in the context of my larger discussion of relationships. And this is yet another message from someone who has possibly problematic perspectives on how asexual people should run their relationships. So, for number 85, I will begin by reading you the letter. It's relatively short, and my thoughts about it are probably not going to be short. So here we go. Beginning of the letter. I think we can teach each other a lot. As I said before, I'm the opposite of an asexual, but I think how people behave is often a function of context. You're in Tampa, and simply words on a screen. I couldn't seduce you even if I wanted to. It is easy for me to take you at your word, perhaps if we were on some island alone, and I was lonely and younger. I might not be so respectful. But for me, the best part of sexual pleasure is giving pleasure. I'm not better than other men. I like feeling pleasure too, but to make someone feel sexual ecstasy is a wonderful feeling, and testosterone is a powerful determinant of behavior. Let me give you the example of power play. I don't know how familiar you are with the concept, so if I am about to tell you things you already know, please forgive me. In a power play relationship, there is a dominant and a submissive, but the outer relationship masks the agreement behind the relationship. And he explains some specifics to me about how usually it's a man dominating a woman, and how that's accomplished with the example of spanking. I don't need to bore you with it. Continuing. So, while I might enjoy being with a sex worker, it would take a special sex worker who was able to convince me that even though I was paying, she was enjoying the experience as much as I was. Her enjoyment is part of my enjoyment, even if I am paying. Human history and literature have countless examples of seduction. It is a feature of courtly love, a ritualized and respectful form of wooing. The problem with the men you have encountered is that they're lacking in respect, and their seduction lacks elegance. Even though you're an asexual, I assume at some point or other you have had sexual experiences, and I also assume that some of those experiences were better than others. I'm guessing the better experiences were in part because of respect and elegance or sensitivity. Please correct me if my assumptions are incorrect. Now, all of this is important to me because I have skin in the game. My wife, post-menopause, has decided she has no interest in sex of any kind. I suspect that menopause isn't the only consideration. I won't bore you with my history, but it is as if my wife has become an asexual, and I have no desire to try to convince her to have sex with me. If she doesn't want to, why would I want her to pretend to want to, or to have sex because I want to? I see the solution as finding someone else who wants to have sex with me. There must be someone somewhere. I think I disagree with your point about sexual people marrying asexuals. I would never tell someone whom to marry or whom not to, but I think marriages work better when the married people have lots in common. They love Shakespeare or opera or ballet or line dancing or football or hunting. They can do those things together and enjoy time together. One thing that married people do together is have sex, and I think it is an important one of those things. If the asexual doesn't mind her partner having sex with all manner of other people, then maybe their marriage can work. But someone who doesn't want to have sex can't expect others to feel the same way. I don't want to convince you to have sex. You shouldn't expect to convince me not to. It is a powerful drive. Look what happened when priests pretended they were going to be celibate, like putting a knot in a garden hose. Eventually, something explodes. I'm keen to hear what you think of all this, but I'll wait until you have the time. Before I actually address the asexuality related content of this message, I want to deal with a few pieces of housekeeping first, so I have made some notes here. First of all, I did not answer him because I don't like to talk to people who speak like rapists. And that may seem like a very strange way to interpret what he was saying, especially considering that he brought up that he doesn't want to have sex with people who don't want to have sex with him. But if you tell me straight up that you wouldn't be able to be respectful if you were alone on an island with me and you were lonely, that is speaking like a rapist, and that is terrifying. Especially since he believes he is respectful, like he describes himself as a respectful person, but then also blames some of what he's saying on how testosterone is just powerful and you can't do anything about it, basically. You have to behave this way. And also, secondly, because a lot of men, people in general, but society sort of rewards and encourages men to think this way, suggest that women are feeling sexual attraction toward them even if they've said no or even if they've said otherwise. And too often I have heard personally from men, no, I know that you like this. I know that you're attracted to me. I believe you're in denial. So as much as this guy says that he can't deal with having sex with someone if she doesn't want to have sex with him, I also have my doubts as to whether he would accept it if someone was saying that they didn't. He might be able to project onto them that they were feeling something in response. And the thing is, I actually agree with him that a lot of people don't want to have sex with someone who doesn't want to have sex with them. That's a thing. That's a very common thing. But it is also very common to not be a thing. It's very common for people in relationships to have mismatched sex drives and having one of them always bothering the other one, trying to get them to give in, or people feeling pestered for sex, people trying to coerce, people trying to chase them and trick them. That's what the whole industry of the gaming, that men think that if they go to this pickup artist site that they'll learn how to get women and stuff. And that wouldn't exist if it wasn't also very common for people to think that they can get somebody who doesn't want sex with them to want sex with them. So, moving on here, I just want to say that people who think that they can only be attracted to someone if that person is attracted back to them can still also be sexual predators because they can project. And it just sounds like I'm not saying that it's necessarily true, but it sounds like there's too many warning signs with this guy that I suspect that maybe he has done this. Also, he brings up seduction. And while that has many definitions, it fits very well with what I said before, where there's this whole idea that if you do something, if there are actions that you can personally perform regardless of the feelings of the other person, if you do these things right, then they will fall for you. They will want it. They will not be able to help themselves, or that it's within your power to make yourself attractive to a person who has initially said that they didn't have interest. And that is also kind of terrifying, combined with some of the things that he said about what he would do with me if he was on an island with me. That's just, the idea that I should talk to him like he's a non-threatening, normal kind of person just because he's physically prevented from doing that to me by distance. I keep saying terrifying, but do they not understand how those words sound to us? So, anyway, then he also has this whole thing where he intellectualizes based on an assumption about me that wasn't true. He says that thing about my his assumptions about my sex life or my sexual past. He makes a supposition that I have multiple sexual experiences in my past, and he then tries to use them to be like, you know, there were some that were better than others, and what was present in the ones that you liked was this thing that I've projected onto you. There was elegance there was care and compassion. And like, I don't have sexual experiences. I don't have those things. So it's very funny that he thought that he could kind of throw that in my face. Like, he thought that he could bring that up and make some kind of comparison that I somehow wouldn't have thought of. Like, I have had romantic encounters in my very distant past that, you know, you can kind of make some comparisons here. But, I mean, while I can say my first boyfriend was better than my second because my second boyfriend was very aggressive and gropey, and the first one was more respectful, it still doesn't mean I wanted sex with either of them any more than the other. They did not do something to make me more attracted to them. It was just like less terrible. It was not sexual attraction. So, like, just none of what he brought up was reality, and that's really important because they put these positions out into the world and then try to reason with you, and none of the initial even platforms that they're placing are accurate. So anybody who talks to me like they just assume I've had certain experiences is just, the whole thing is just kind of alarming. But anyway, moving on to kind of talk about the part where this is more relevant specifically to asexuality and or mismatched sexual desires within a relationship and or a marriage. It's not wrong of him at all to only want to be with people who are sexually attracted back to him. That's great. I mean, that's fine. It's also not the only way that it can work. And to assume that everybody is like this and that it's like kind of the only right way to be, and that he can presume to explain this to me, like that this is how people work, as a way of invalidating asexual and non-asexual marriages, like that I shouldn't be giving that advice to people, that it's inappropriate for me to suggest that should be a thing because this is how people work. You know, it's fine for him to say that that's how he works. It's not fine for him to say nobody else works like this and that I somehow don't know that because I'm asexual and I don't know how people work. He gets to set the rules for his relationships and that's it, you know? So how somebody else's compatibility works could be entirely different, and he doesn't get to say that. Presenting your experiences as universal is another kind of warning sign that you're talking to somebody that hasn't really considered multiple perspectives. So, it's great if you don't want to talk a woman into sex, but just some of the other things that he said make me doubt that. And to repeat a little bit, the world is very full of this dynamic of, I can't say it's not a gendered phenomenon. It is largely a gendered phenomenon, although I want to say up front that I know there are situations where it isn't a man chasing a woman for sex, but there's so much of this in pop culture, and there's so much of this in discussions about, I mean, this is a man complaining that his wife doesn't want to have sex with him. That is, I mean, there's so many jokes about getting married and then all of a sudden the switch flips off where, okay, we're married, I'm not gonna have sex with you anymore. Or sometimes like the kids are born and now sex is over. And so there's so many, I don't know, movies like, I'm thinking about American Pie, which just was one of the worst movies I ever saw because I was just watching it thinking, I can't relate to any of this. I don't understand why they are spending all of this time and energy on trying to get laid, and it's so important. I just, personally don't relate to that at all. I'm not, I'm not saying that people who do relate to that can't find it funny, but I was so bored by that movie because I just couldn't relate to that struggle and found it very boring. Anyway, but that whole thing, it's like a lot of these little dudes they were trying so hard to be appealing to a woman or to get her to do it with them. And it was all kind of based on like an idea that if you push the right button or you say the right line, I mean, I'm not just talking about the movie, I'm talking about in general, this whole idea that you can do something to make these people, to make the partner that you want be attracted to you, that you have to do something, that she's not going to do it on her own. That is everywhere. And so it's certainly not weird to think that there are plenty of dudes out there who, who are trying to repeat what they've seen in these movies. But again, it's not all these heterosexual relationships where a man is trying to sleep with a woman. It's just that's the one that you see the example of in media so much. And that's what mirrors his life. So I mean, if your whole like media world is full of jokes about women shutting down sex and not letting you get in there, like you can't say that it's silly or impossible for men to not want sex with women who don't want them back. You know what I mean? This is also just, it's not a uniquely asexual problem at all. These women are not asexual for the most part. It's not implied that they are. It's often held up as either the woman is playing hard to get or the woman is a passive object that requires a certain code to be entered, and then she'll drop her panties, I guess. But he seems to think that there is mainly only an issue of asexual people marrying non-asexual people, when he's personally in a situation where his wife's sex drive changed. And that is way more common than he seems to be understanding. There are so many people who have differences in sex drive and also willingness to have sex despite sex drive. It's just everybody gets to make those choices. So, whether the person is sexually attracted to you, it's sometimes very important, and it might be the reason why a person refuses to have sex. Like if they're not sexually attracted to you, maybe that means that person will say, I can't have sex with someone if I'm not sexually attracted to them. But then there's also plenty of people who say, I don't have to be sexually attracted to you, but I'll still have sex with you for other reasons. And there are many asexual people who are in that category. There are many who are not asexual who are also in that category, or at least have certainly had sex when they're just not really feeling that, that they're just like, well, it would be nice to get laid today. I don't really find this person attractive, but they're willing. So, I mean, that happens all the time too. So, the bottom line here is when he said that marriages work better when the marriages have something in common, that is absolutely right. It's just funny that he automatically jumps onto, and sex is one of those things. Like, it's not for everyone. And it is actually very frequently handled through compromise, regardless of whether an asexual person is part of that couple. It has to be navigated throughout the couple's life as needs change, as attractions change, as even bodily ability to have sex changes. And, I mean, you can never be totally or even reasonably sure that you've figured out that you're always going to have this compatibility in that particular relationship, right? So, I mean, if an asexual person's primary criteria for an acceptable partner includes that person will not accept sex, then yeah, it's probably going to be very difficult to find a relationship with a person who does desire there to be a sexual relationship and a sexual attraction dynamic between them. That sounds like it would probably be a deal breaker. However, many asexual people, if they were to make a top 10 list of things that they want their perfect partner to have in common with their partner, sex might not make the list. I mean, not even, and they have to want infrequent sex or be okay with infrequent sex or no sex. Like, that might not even be on the list. They might have already accepted, well, I'm probably not going to find someone who has no sexual desire, so I'm probably going to end up having sex, but I want to do that with my partner. I enjoy making them feel good. It's not how I would express my love for them, but I like seeing them have this need of theirs satisfied. I mean, I'm not saying that if you're married to someone who desires sex that has to be the way that an asexual person deals with it, but it is frequently something that we do. And plenty of people who aren't asexual also do that. They'll have sex with someone because they love them, or they'll have sex with someone because they really enjoy intrinsically in a different way from intrinsically personally desiring the sex. They love seeing that person be satisfied, and they love being able to give that to them. They love the closeness, they love the intimacy, even if that particular act is not what they would personally have chosen. But it's funny that this guy just like went through all of these possibilities for things that the hypothetical partner could want to match on, and then just like threw in sex as if it's just a given that that's one of the ways that you totally have to match. It's like, maybe the other things are more important. Maybe an asexual person said, I am okay with the fact that I'm not getting what I want on that term, as long as the person wants to live where I want to live, loves dogs, wants to have kids, and likes the thermostat set at 73. Just, it's highly variable. So, anyway, I personally do things pretty often where the primary reason I'm doing them is that the other person will feel valued or loved, or I will get to see them enjoy themselves. And I may not actively want to do the thing, or I may even be sacrificing something like work or time or money that I don't necessarily enjoy spending or putting into this, but then I will have that payoff of getting to see someone that I love enjoy the thing. And while I don't like to necessarily set that up as, okay, sex is transactional, it's not like that. It's, it can be. It can be, obviously, especially if you do have an actual, like the guy mentioned, using the services of a sex worker, like that's transactional. But it's not like if you enjoy seeing someone enjoy themselves, that means you're manipulating them, or that you just do this to get that. It's how love works. It's you love seeing the other person enjoy what you have done. So you can't really reduce it to this idea that if both people aren't feeling exactly the same about what you're doing, that there's something inauthentic about it. It's just not true. And it's also overgeneralizing the reasons that people are in these relationships in the first place. So sex, bottom line, sex is not some magical activity that's removed from every other possibility of intimacy or fun activities between people. It's not this magical activity that can only be done under specific circumstances to be right. And this one dude just seems to be generalizing his perspective an awful lot. He doesn't seem to be accepting that other people's relationships might have a completely different dynamic. So it's diverse. It's diversely experienced as well, just like many people are diverse. So, so I noticed that his points about how the asexual person should expect her partner, so you see that who he expects to be asexual in the situation, he pointed out this thing where, oh well, unless she expects her partner to get it all manner of other people, it's like as if that's obviously something that most people won't want, when actually it's one of the most common ways that people who have different sexual needs end up dealing with them if they want to stay together. It's not actually that uncommon. So it was almost like he phrased it like, well, I mean, unless you want me to stray outside the marriage, then obviously. But lots of people have open marriages. A lot of people have poly relationships. It's just, you have to negotiate them. You have to figure it out. It's not like, unless you want me to do this. Yeah, maybe I do. Maybe I do want you to do that. Stop bugging me. And, you know, again, it's not only in situations with asexual people. It's in so many situations. So, I'm clearly tired. Big yawn. So, alright, so lastly, his comment about how he doesn't want to convince me to have sex, so I shouldn't want to convince him not to in a hypothetical relationship, I guess. Exactly. I mean, I don't disagree with that fundamentally. I don't disagree with that on principle. Except that he already admitted in his opener that he wouldn't be able to be respectful if we were alone on an island. And, I mean, again, freaking terrifying. But by and large, asexual people are not trying to convince everybody else not to want sex. That's not a thing. We generally aren't recruiting, and also generally aren't insisting that we have everything on our terms. It is almost entirely, almost 100% the other way. That if we are in relationships, we are treated by everyone, including the partner, everyone, including the media, everyone, including counselors and parents and people who care about us. We're told that we're the problem, that we're the one who should be changing for the sake of the relationship. So it's weird to see it framed as if he doesn't expect me to have sex, then I shouldn't expect him not to want sex. It's like, nobody's trying to take that from you though, man. I know that he said that he's in a relationship where his wife just has no interest in sex now, but it's very strange that he doesn't seem to get that in most situations his interest would be upheld as normal and her interest would be like, okay, well, you need to do something about that. Why don't you take medication, or why don't you just do it for the sake of the relationship? Which I've talked about in other videos, how it's very interesting how we are often portrayed as selfish for not doing it for the relationship, when nobody really asks a non-asexual person why wanting sex from an unwilling person is not similarly selfish. But anyway, bottom line is, we are adults and we can figure out what we want to consent to. We can acknowledge that these things might change over time, and if you feel like you're in a relationship with someone and their ability to properly be your companion has changed too much for you to feel fulfilled, then if it's a deal breaker, break the deal. You know, you are allowed to decide that and leave. So nobody's demanding that this guy go without sex. Like, if his number one on his whole chart of reasons that he'd be married to a woman is you have to want me sexually, and suddenly she doesn't anymore after a period of time or whatever it was that he said, he wasn't going to bore me with the details, that she no longer wants to have sex with him or is sexually attracted to him, then, like, if you feel like that's so powerful that it just kind of invalidates everything else, I mean, you're allowed to say that, you're allowed to do that, and you feel like you've been cheated even though she's supposedly this whole person that you loved, it's on you to communicate to her that that is the case, that she's no longer good enough for you if she won't have sex or doesn't desire you that way. She can she can decide what to do with that as well. So, I mean, if it's more that you just need someone, anyone, to desire you that way, and your relationship with your wife will be fine as long as you can bang someone else who wants you, you're going to have to work that out too. And it isn't ridiculous to ask you to do that. So, although I know many people just kind of stop there and say, like, oh, well, obviously they can't possibly mean that we should have to jump through any of these hoops. Surely it's more reasonable to agree that the wife needs to have sex, and should just, like, start wanting to have sex with him, and that's what'll fix it. I mean, we actually do mean you need to do some work and, like, figure out how and whether to stay in the relationship. And I mean, if you're the one with the unmet needs, then be a big boy and negotiate that, instead of saying that people with different sexual needs just can't have a successful marriage. That's not across the board true. It might be true for you. So, some people can do that, and I am not being irresponsible by suggesting that it's their own damn business. Each individual couple or group, it's their business and it's their responsibility to figure that out. So, I mean, also, I really don't need a lecture on what horny bastards some people can be and how often they blame it on testosterone, as if that just, like, it's gonna make them act a certain way and it's just nature and they can't do anything about it. Like, I know dozens of asexual men who have typical testosterone levels who do not act like that, who do not act like their testosterone levels just force them to need sex from people and justify it that way. That always creeps me out when they're like, oh, well, testosterone is very powerful. It's like, okay, that's a thing. I get that. I hear that a lot. But I also know that it's not what makes you act like that. It's still your responsibility to negotiate your relationships maturely. So that's about all I have to say on that subject. And yeah, everybody gets to negotiate. Everybody gets to negotiate what the terms are, and it doesn't really make sense to wade into other people's hypothetical relationships and say, well, what you've got going on there, that never works, so you should stop saying that that can work. It does sometimes work. So, anyway, before I end up yawning and falling asleep on camera, I'd better wrap this one up. And so, thanks for watching, and have a good night.